Hi guys. So we've not really been doing a lot of content lately, and I'm going to say that's down to sort of the way the metagame is shaping up. I feel like it's become quite stale, and to be honest, me and Terry have been more into Digimon lately. It's a brand new TCG, and we're really excited about it. We really enjoy it, and we're trying to get a few of our friends into it, and no one knows how to play it because it's brand new. So rather than explain the game individually, we thought we'd just make a video, and then we thought it might help other people out there as well who are just trying to get into the game. And we're going to be looking at it from a Yu-Gi-Oh player's perspective, because Yu-Gi-Oh is not like other TCGs and others. There's usually a lot of similarities, so we'll be looking at this from sort of people who just play Yu-Gi-Oh and not any of these others like Magic or Pokemon or anything like that. So to start off with, we'll look at the playmat and how you arrange uh, all your items. So you start off where your X deck would be. You have your Digitama deck. So this is made up of up to 5 level 2s. So it starts at level 2 for some reason. For those who actually know more about it, is because you have like the 2 in training forms. This is the level 2 as opposed to the level 1, which is the smaller one. So you start off with level 2s. Currently we have 4 of the same one, so it doesn't matter if we shuffle it. You get 4. This is the Gaia Red structure deck that I'll be showing you. So you get 4 in the Gaia Red structure deck, but usually you would have up to 5. You can have 4 copies of any card, but that's to do with the set number, not the name. So if there was another Koromon, for example, you would be able to have more of that because it would have a different set number. You do get alternate arts, so they have the same number, so you can't have for the regular art for the alternate art. So that would get shuffled, and that goes where your X deck would be. And then sort of your leftmost spell and trap zone, this is your raising area. So this is where you have your eggs when they hatch. Next, you have your sort of other 4 spell and trap zones. This is your tamer area. So tamers are a card type. That's all your actual, like, Tai, Matt, Izzy, Sora, and people like that. So they go here. They are sort of like continuous spells and traps, and they give you an effect each turn. Then we have the deck, and in this game it's the trash, or your graveyard. They're switched. So your graveyard is actually where your deck would be, and your deck is where your graveyard would be. Then your main zone is your battle area. That's where your monsters go in both Yu-Gi-Oh and Digimon, but there's no limit. So it's not just 5 zones. You can have as many Digimon as you are able to produce in the game. And then lastly, where your field spell would be, this is your security area. So security is sort of like your life points in this. For those who have played Pokemon, it's sort of like your prizes. But in this, it's where your field spell would be, and you start off with 5, and the goal of the game is to get rid of all 5 of your opponent's security and then attack directly. So I'll move on to the monsters. We'll go through the different card types and sort of what the cards are like, and then we'll go on to how the actual game is played. So to start off with, we have a monster. So this is an Agumon. So you do get different kinds of Agumon, and these ones have the set code ST-03, ST1-03, but there are some that come in the first set, and you can play this Agumon with different Agumons. So we have the play cost. So there's 2 ways to get monsters on the field. You can either hard play it from hand, or you can Digivolve onto one of a level 1 lower. So this is, to play it straight from hand is 3, but to Digivolve it is 0. And you won't be able to make out, but just above that 0 is a level 2, and it's in a red circle. So that means the Digimon it's evolving onto has to be a level 2 red. So each Digimon will have that. It mostly follows that it has to be the level 1 lower in the same color, but it doesn't always. Then, so you've got the card art, and then in the top right corner you have the DP. So DP acts as your attack power and also your defense power. So it becomes the same thing for this. And if your DP is reduced to 0 by a card effect, then your Digimon is automatically deleted. So it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you can have a 0 attack monster. If the DP becomes 0, it's deleted and sent to the trash straight away. You have the stage, which here is Rookie. You have types, which is Vaccine and Reptile. You've got the level here, which is level 3. And you've got this box down the bottom. So this is an effect box, but Digimon can have 2 different kinds of effects. So you can see here that this Agumon has text down here, and this Cordramon has text in this box here that covers sort of the bottom section of the artwork. So these are 2 very different things in the game. The one on the right, the Cordramon, when it's on its own artwork, that means it's an effect that it itself has. So in this case, the Cordramon has blocker, and when attacking, lose 2 memory. The Agumon has it in this bottom box. This is an inherited effect. So any Digimon that digivolves on top of this will gain that effect. So I'll just grab myself a level 4. So if I've played this Agumon, I can evolve into the Greymon, and when I evolve it, I will leave this bottom section clear so that I can see it, because that's the inherited effect that Greymon gets. And this Greymon also has an inheritable effect. So when I evolve this Greymon into a level 5, it now has both of these effects. And you can have as many effects as you have cards underneath it. Not all cards have inheritable effects, and not all cards will have its own effect. So some of them are just vanillas, but in this case we have those inheritable effects, and the Cordramon has its own effect. So that's sort of the layout of the card. You have in the Gaia Red deck, you have your level 3s, which will evolve onto your Digitama, which are in here. So those are level 2, level 3. Then you'll have your level 4s, in which case we have 2 Greymon, 4 Birdramon, 4 Cordramon, and because you really need to sort of evolve them up, you'll have sort of descending numbers. So you'll start off with mostly level 3s, then a few fewer level 4s, and then that'll go all the way up. So we have level 5s, we have 8 level 5s, and then we have our level 6s, which in this deck is the highest, but you do get level 7s. That's a bit of glare. That's the Cordramon, that's the Dracomon. So here we have level 6s. So these level 6s don't have inheritable effects, because currently there's no Digimon that are level 6 that have inheritable effects. But this one does have its own effect, which is during your turn, for every 2 Digivolution cards this Digimon has, it gains security attack +1. I'll go over that in a bit when we talk about security. And this is just vanilla. It's just a big beat stick of 12,000. So these evolve into these evolve into these, and these evolve into these. So you are wanting to go up those Digivolutions one at a time. Some effects will give you that sort of warp Digivolve effect where you can skip some, but game mechanics wise, that's how you do it. So these do still have the play cost in the corner. That does mean that you can just play that for its play cost, and you will get its. You will have that as a monster, and you can use any effects. One important thing to note is that this Garudamon has, when Digivolving, one of your Digimon gets plus 3000 DP for the turn. So that is only when it Digivolves on top of another Digimon. Some other Digimon will have text that says on play. So that on play only happens when you play it directly from your hand, not when you Digivolve it. So those are the sort of 2 different distinctions, because some Digimon it's better to Digivolve, some it's better to just hard play. A lot of the big level 6s you can use as tech cards in other decks, because a lot of them will just say on play, you get to do this thing. So you can just drop this big guy, get an additional effect. It does cost a lot, which I've not even explained memory, so we'll explain that next. Yeah, so that's how the Digimon work. And I'll just grab myself some memory gauges because that's what we'll explain next. So the way this game is balanced, and I really like the way this game is balanced, is that you have a memory gauge which sits in the middle of the table between you and your opponent, and you have this 0 in the middle, and it goes up to 10, and then back to 10 the other way. So this is your memory gauge. At the start of the game, you will roll a dice, and whoever wins goes first. That's just it. You don't get to decide. It's whoever wins the die roll goes first. And it starts on 0. And typically what's going to happen is you will have your Digitama nice and shuffled. You start your turn, which you start your turn with the unsuspend phase. For those who play something like Magic, that's also your active phase, your untapping phase, or whatever. So anything that has been, in this game it's suspended, you get to unsuspend. We'll go over that when we get to the gameplay. You will go to your hatching phase, so you can either flip over an egg, or you can move a level 3 or higher into the battle area. Level 2s can't exist in the battle area, so you have to evolve it first. If you have level 3, this is a 0 cost to evolve. Whenever you digivolve, you get to draw a card. So in this case, we'll say that we draw a level 4. And then we can evolve the level 3 into level 4 for its digivolution cost. So this cost moves this gauge towards your opponent. So in the first instance, this is 0 to evolve it, so it doesn't move anywhere. If I go to level 4, it costs 2, so it moves 2 to my opponent's side. As soon as this goes past the 0, it's now my opponent's turn. And they can do whatever they want within the limits of the memory. So if my opponent then decides that they're going to just hard play an Agumon, they can hard play that Agumon for 3, in which case it will move to the 1, and it's past that 0 again, so it's back to my turn. If he instead had played something like a Gomamon, which is a play cost of 2, you cannot see that, play cost of 2, that would go from 2 to 0, and it's still his turn. Until it passes that 0, it's still my turn. So that's how the memory gauge works. Any of your cards have a cost. That cost can say 0, but it's still there on the card. So that's how your memory works. We'll now move on to the other card types. So those are your monsters. Now we have option cards. So these act like normal spells. They have the cost and they have the effect here, which it is whatever it says on the card. So for example, the Starlight Explosion says that main, which is your main phase, you have one main phase and that's it. You don't have individual battle main end phases. Everything happens in the same phase. All of your security Digimon get plus 7,000 DP until the end of the turn. That's so that's the effect, and that happens until the end of the turn. As soon as you play that, you move the memory gauge, and then this goes to your trash. Yeah. So these are just like normal spells. They have a one-off effect and a cost. So in this starter deck, you start off with 12, but really the only good one is the Gaia Force, which just deletes one of your opponent's Digimon. Delete in this game is like destroy. And one more thing about option cards is that you can only play an option of that color if you control a card of that same color on the field somewhere. So it can be a tamer or a monster or even a monster in your nursery. As long as you control one of that color, you're able to play that option card from your hand. So it just means for mixed color decks that you need to make sure you have that color out, and it means you can't just play like Gaia Force in every single deck. You have to have the tamer or the monster to play it as well. but if it is flipped over for security, you will still get that effect even if you don't control it. And the last card type we have is Tamers. So Tamers have a cost and they have an effect. Some of them will require you to suspend them. This just means turning it to the side. At the start of your next turn, the first thing you do, unsuspend. So they're just like continuous spells that give you an effect. And while we're talking about these, the bottom section of the Tamers and the options have this security effect. So we've not talked about security, but I guess now's a good time saying. At the start of your game, you will shuffle your deck. I'll just give this a quick shuffle. Yeah, so you shuffle your deck, and before drawing your hand, you take the top 5 cards, put it over where your field zone would be, then you draw your 5. The game can begin. So this is your life in this game. You want to keep your security intact, and what's going to happen is during your turn, you'll have your unsuspend phase, you'll have your draw phase, you'll have your hatching phase, and then you have your main phase. Main phase is when you do any of your playing cards. So any evolutions, any options, playing any tamers, and hard playing any monsters, and also battling. So you can do it in any order in your main phase. So what happens is if I have this monster out, if I've just played it, it can't attack. So any of you who have played Magic, it's like Summoning Sickness. You cannot attack with a monster the same turn you hard play it. But if, for example, during my hatching phase, I had a Dracomon in the previous turn there, and I choose during my hatching phase to bring this out, this Digimon already exists on the field. So what I can do is I can evolve into my Greymon and I can attack. So the Summoning Sickness only applies to hard playing for your turn. If I hard play the Dracomon and then evolve into the Greymon, this is still the same Digimon, it's just evolved, so it's still got the Summoning Sickness. So to attack, you will turn it sideways, like you're turning it to defense. This is suspending it. So this is declaring an intention to attack. So in this game, you can either attack an opponent's security or a suspended Digimon they have. You cannot attack a unsuspended Digimon unless an effect says so. So if you want to keep something safe, you can just keep it in attack all the time and your opponent will be able to attack it. So I declare my intention to attack security. If they don't block it or anything else, my opponent will then take the top card of their security and they'll flip it over. And then we do something depending on whether it's a monster or whether it's an option or tamer. So options and tamers have this security effect. When it's flipped over, my Digimon is safe and they get the security effect. Not all options and tamers have security effects, but if it does, that will then resolve. So in this case, Taikamiya says that you can play this card without paying its memory cost. If it's flipped over and it's a monster, that worked out well. You will compare the DP. So the security monster is always destroyed. Every single time. Doesn't matter whether it's higher or lower, it always gets destroyed. But depending on whether it's higher or lower, depends whether this is also destroyed. So in this case, the defending security Digimon is higher, so this gets destroyed or deleted, and that would go to your trash. If I attacked with something with the same DP, we'll use a different Cordon, for example, they tie and they both get deleted. So it's just like Yu-Gi-Oh! If you crash on the same attack, they both go. But the only time it's not is if you attack with something that's higher. So in this case, we'll say it's the Garudamon. So we've evolved into the Greymon and the Garudamon. This Garudamon is 7,000. So this is higher than the Cordamon 6,000. So this lives. This will go to your opponent's trash. And this will stay on the field suspended in this defense position until your next turn. Yeah, so attacking into monsters works pretty much the exact same way uh, as you would expect it to. Same happens in Yu-Gi-Oh! The monster with the lower DP is destroyed. If they're both on the same, they both die, and whichever one is higher survives the battle. Some cards can have increased security, so the likes of this War Greymon, for every 2 Digivolution cards it has, it gains security attack +1. So all Digimon naturally start on security attack 1. That means when they attack security, they'll flip over 1 card. But having security attack +1 means that you'll flip over that one and then one additional one, so 2 in total. And you can keep going up until you're taking as many securities you possibly can. So that's a strategy of Red, is just take as many security in one go, but you resolve them one at a time. So if you attack into something and it's a Gaia Force, or it's a Digimon with a higher DP than the attacking Digimon, then it stops there. It doesn't keep taking the remaining security, however many it is. So that's increased security. You can also have decreased security. So things, all things start on 1, but if you say get a -2, you then go to that -1, and then you'll have to get +1 to take it back to 0, and then plus another one to start taking security again. And no, if it's security attack -1, it doesn't give more security. It just doesn't take any. It's just so that if you have something that takes more security away from it, then they have to undo all of it rather than it reset to 0, and then you just need to add 1. So that's how security works. So we've been over the hatching phase. The only things you can do is either hatch a new one, which you can only have 1 egg at any time. You can either hatch one, or if when it comes to your turn you've already got a level 3 or higher, you can move it into the battle area. But you don't have to. If you want, you can have that in there for turn after turn, and you can build it up. While it's in the nursery, it can't be affected by your opponent's effects. So as soon as it comes out, if my opponent has something like a Gaia Force, which can delete one of your opponent's Digimon, they can just get rid of this. But while it's in the nursery, it's unaffected. But you also don't get any effects of Digimon in the nursery. So this Garudamon, for example, has when Digivolving, one of your Digimon gets +3000 for the turn. You wouldn't get that. Nothing can activate in here. So that's how your nursery works. We've been over Digivolving. You draw each time you Digivolve, so every time you pay the cost, move the memory gauge, and then draw. Pay the memory cost and draw. Every single time. That's how you maintain hand advantage in this game. It's very important, and a lot of new players forget about it, especially coming from something like Yu-Gi-Oh!, where there isn't a lot of free draw power as such. So that's a really important thing to remember. So the game is over when all of your opponent's security is gone and you can attack directly. So it's like performing another security effect, but it's just nothing. There's no card left. You attack directly and you win. It doesn't matter how many guys they have in the field. As long as you can do that attack, you win. So the only thing you can use to stop attacking Digimon is if you have something like the Cordramon, which has blocker. So blocker just means that when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can choose to suspend this and your opponent attacks that instead. So these are very important for defending against security attacks. It can also mean that you protect another Digimon that you want to keep on the field. Some decks revolve around having this as well. So I think it's important that you should know about that. Some of the other keywords that you'll come across. So the keywords are typically in red. So the Cordramon has blocker. There's a lot of blockers. There's one for each color minimum. And then decks like black have a lot more. So I'll run through the other keywords just now. So one of black's things is de-digivolve. So this is de-digivolve 1. So you just take the top card and put it in the trash. You can't de-digivolve onto a level 2 because, like I said, level 2s can't exist in the battle area. So if it gets to a level 3, it'll stop, and if it gets to something with no Digivolutions underneath it, it'll stop as well. Then there's Retaliation, so this is like Death Touch and Magic. So when this is deleted after losing a battle, delete the Digimon it was battling. So that's if this attacks or it is attacked. It'll delete whatever it is. Draw 1 is just, there's usually a trigger, so for this case it's on deletion, trigger, draw 1. So if you look at the cards, the blue is usually the trigger, the red is usually the keyword. Jamming, so this can't be deleted in security battles, so no matter what it attacks in security, in terms of DP, it can't be deleted by that, but it can still be deleted by card effects. So if you get a Gaia Force, it'll still be able to delete it, but if this attacks into anything with higher DP, it's still not destroyed. Then you have the Centaurus, which has security attack -2. I spoke about that earlier. So that selects 5 and gives them security attack -2. There's Piercing. This gives any Digimon with Tyrannomon name Piercing. This means if they battle a Digimon, it will still then perform any security checks it would normally. So if a Digimon has just normal security attack 1, it'll delete the Digimon and then do its security attacks as normal. Reboot. So Reboot is it unsuspends during your opponent's unsuspend phase. So Black has a lot of that because they have blockers, and it means they can attack and then they reboot and they can still block with it. Because to block you have to suspend, so you can't block with an already suspended Digimon. This War Greyman has security attack +1. We've been over that. And last one is the Recovery. So Recovery just means placing the top card of your deck on top of your security stack to refresh that. So this Digimon gives security 2 more security cards on play. And I think that's it for the most part. I think you've seen what you get in the Gaia Reds. It's a nice mix. It's a good starter deck for you to pick up, and it's quite easy to play. I really enjoy the game. I'm hoping that me and Terry can get some gameplay videos up for you all soon. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.
Shh, not a zombie channel.